Even a foreign language cannot be used by a country to develop.
And you are speaking English right now.
But that is the issue. That is the product of our education system. If I speak my native language, the African, other Africans will not understand it. That is the disconnection that exists. I speak 4 different languages. But if I speak those languages, I can only communicate with people in West Africa.
So are you saying that we can be able to develop with that kind of ethnic diversity, difference in languages? Then what we used to communicate, are we heading back to side language in barter trade back in the days?
No, but I think, we live in a very advanced world whereby English that we are speaking today is not a traditional language in Africa. It was introduced, programmed with strategies. To some extent, we all adapted. Can't we do the same? Or is there anything that exists as these are the people who knows it all and they do it all, and some individuals don't and they cannot do it? Swahili, for instance, there is a progress in East Africa where so many countries now have adopted it as official language. It is being taught in schools, and that is empowering the young people in believing in a language. Language is very important. A Chinese can become a doctor without being able to speak English and French. And that is not possible for a Nigerian, not possible for even a Rwandan, not even possible for a Gambian. That is the wrong that we are talking about in the education system. So we have to be able to produce individuals with skills, with knowledge, with everything, relying on our realities. And that in the first step in that is changing or designing the curriculum that fits the African purpose. With African languages that can be generalized within the continent, where people try to embrace them bit by bit. But without that, our call can never be realized.
Very true. Do we see some success stories in Africa?
Sure, there are. We just talked about Rwanda, for instance. We have seen what is going on in Mauritius. We have seen other countries like in Kenya. We have seen countries like in South Africa and etc. Even though if you analyze most of them in depth, you come to realize that they also have like few lapses in some of their models and etc. Some of them are still trapped with foreign aid, with debts, loans, from Bretton Woods institutions like the IMF, the World Bank. We've seen recently how Chinese are using their financial, strength to more of recolonize African countries, as a result of the little finance that they're giving us, using paper money in exchange with our valuable resources. But we have these problems, but it doesn't mean that we can't fix it. We can fix it. We just have to look inward. We have to start looking down, because relying on the West has not solved the problem. And Garvey said one thing that was very important. Any leadership that teaches you to rely on another race for survival, that leadership will enslave you.
Osman, we've been reading this great book with you, The Post-Development Reader. And present something like a mainstream media propaganda. What is about that?
Thank you so much. I think that is the work of Majid and Victoria, which is a very good work in development studies. But basically, if you look at the mainstream media, it operates in a way that way before the publication of this very book, in fact, it has ever been there. And that is the beauty of academic, because they can always look into things that happen in our societies and come up with solution to it. I will recommend every development student to automatically visit this very literature. Now, looking at the mainstream media, we have been portrayed as a continent in a way that there is no life in this continent. The continent is not developing. It is looked at as a continent that only has poverty in it. These are the images shown by the outside world about Africa, and this image must change. It must change in a way that if an image portrays poverty, it doesn't attract investors to come. Africa must have an image that attracts investment, not foreign investment, but investment by Africans themselves. We have so many individuals living in the diaspora, and that is why I always make this call. Africa is the future for investment, but Africans have to take the lead in it. And I'm saying this because if you look at the mainstream media today, we have millions of people living in the streets of America as homeless. They do not want us to see that. They don't want us to see poverty existing in European countries. We've seen how Britain is. We've seen, how Italy is. We've seen how some of these countries are. They have their own issues that they find it difficult to solve among themselves. Just one example. Look at how the Ebola epidemic was portrayed, and Africans were portrayed during this crisis or during this disease outbreak. And what happened when the COVID was killing people in the Western world? These images were not shown. So that is why it's high time for us as Africans to develop media outlets among ourselves. And medias that are not in line with our principles, with our agendas, we have to kick them out of the continent. It's either they be neutral and show the beautiful part of the continent as well, or else they stay in their own countries. That is the fact. But we cannot just be here and being portrayed in a way that, as if there is no life. So they have to be neutral. And if you look at this very book, you will understand how media has a role to play in balancing power at the international level. That is why you see all these so-called superpowers have a media outlet that propagates their own agendas, even though sometimes they are built on, promises that are not even materialistic. So we must be aware of this. And the mainstream media have been the cause of most of the problems in Africa. They portray the Western world as if everything there is perfect, brainwashing the youths who doesn't have time to look in depth as to what is happening. And therefore we've seen Africans dying in the Mediterranean Sea. We've seen Africans dying in refugee camps in Europe. We've seen Africans being sent to prisons. Innocent people treated differently just because they are in different continent or just because of the color of their skin. So all these things are happening because of the mainstream media. So we must be aware of it now. Develop media outlets and build up a network among themselves, and they have the African agenda forward. Then Africa can have a single voice.
A single voice for Africa.
Africa 24 is indeed a great media. I think those are some of the individuals that we really need to empower, and making sure that Africans invest in media outlets like this, so that they can have the opportunity to extend their channels across the continent and even beyond the continent, to make sure that Africans are informed with the best things happening in the continent as well. But if we don't know what is happening, we find it difficult to embrace it. So media is very important. It is one of those most important instruments that you can use to change a society, because the first step in realizing a development model or a development agenda is through communication. And communication has to be built in a way that it is persuasive in nature, whereby it can ignite the spirit of participation, the spirit of responsibility in an individual, for them to take up visions as collective in a particular society to make change. So media outlets owned by Africans in the continent must be empowered.
The previous generations that were existing in this world, especially in Africa, they used to live knowing that the West is what can help them grow, or the West is what can help them live the better life that they want to live. And that is why everybody wanted to go to the United States of America, to go to Belgium, to go to Spain, to go to the UK, for them to be able to get good pastures, to get good jobs. And what they used to say is that when we go out there, we're going to get money, we're going to be rich. Like if those people who wanted to be rich and make a lot of money, they had to go outside African countries for them to be able to get enough money and to be rich from the villages and from the societies that they were coming from. Okay, that is why our knowledge people went to the United States of America. They went to all those Europe countries. We lost brains in Africa. We lost many people who were educated. They had brains. Yeah, we lost them because they wanted to live a better life, and they were told, they understood the only way we can be able to live better is when we get out of the country. Because when people used to go out of the country, they used to become rich very easily. They go there, they sent money to their home, they build mansions in Africa and all that. Okay? And it used to, like, it got into the minds of many people. And as we were growing, even we, as we were growing, we knew the only place where people are living better, where people are living good life, where people are enjoying life, is in the United States of America. Where people are living better is in the UK, not in Africa. Yeah, you would tell someone, I'll travel to the UK, someone feel you've made it in life. Okay, you tell someone, I will go to the United States of America. Sometimes people would think it is very impossible for you to just get into the United States of America, because they thought once somebody has gotten to the US, it is like he has gone to heaven and all that. Yeah, we used to beg white people. When white people could come to Africa and maybe on our vacations and all that, we used to beg them and ask them, oh, we need money, we need help. Even in our churches in Africa, even in our children's home, in our charity places in Africa, we wanted them to come. We used to invite white people, the Wazungu, to come to Africa and give us money, because we knew when these people are around, there's going to be a lot of money that's going to be given out. There's going to be a very big help that's going to be given out. And we knew whenever we have the Wazungu around or the white people around, we can never suffer, we can never complain, we can never cry. And we begged so much the white people to help us. We begged so much the Europe countries to help us. Even our leaders, our presidents who have been there before, the presidents, we have seen them ruling in these African countries, they've always begged white people to help them, yeah, in terms of many things. That is why when these people are called on a meeting to be summoned by the Europe presidents, they would go there. They are lined there, all of them. They are summoned by one president of a single country, maybe US, maybe UK, maybe France and all those countries. They can be talked to and they are listening. But because they have been told we shall give you money, they go there. It is like they are begging. They are begging for some help. They are begging for some funds. They are begging for some little credits, for some little coins here and there, because they think and they feel like they cannot be able to provide all this by themselves. They cannot be able to make this money or to make these funds by themselves. They think it is only until we go to the West or we beg this United States president or France president or the UK's president or those Europe countries president. It is until we beg them so they can be able to give us some money or make us live better. They failed to understand that in Africa, we have everything that we need to live better and to live well. So they had to do that. Yeah. And right now, as we are speaking, we are beginning to see a very big change. And you cannot maybe claim, or okay, you cannot complain on them, or maybe you can't blame them. Maybe it is what was happening. But what sometimes we fail to understand is that we had leaders who tried to come and explain this to us, but because our minds had been brainwashed, we didn't listen to them, and we thought everything they were saying to us was not actually what was true. They tried to tell us, they tried to tell them that we can live better without the help from the West, but many people did not listen to that. They thought maybe these are just people who are having their own personal and individual agendas that is not going to help us. Okay, and we are seeing it happening even today. We have even African leaders today who are still depending on the West and still begging from the West. They have not yet realized they can actually do all things by themselves. Okay, but right now things are beginning to change. When you wake up and see what is happening in Africa, in African countries, how youths are running on the road, how youths are protesting about bad governance, how youths they're speaking about Africa can stand by itself. Like youths themselves, they're beginning to understand and they're beginning to see they can actually do things by themselves because they understand it. It is now the time that they're understanding and they're getting it into their heads that they can actually do a lot of things by themselves, with themselves, without depending on the West. I want to take a look at these videos, then I'll come back and talk about it.
I want to start off by a quote that I saw on social media yesterday. It said, poor countries are not underdeveloped, they are overexploited. And I want to, yes. And I want to make an addition to that. We allow it. We allow the overexploitation of our country. We allow the Anglo-Americans, the big companies, to extract our minerals and export them and sell it back to us at higher prices. In fact, we dine with them at gala dinners and say, please come, increase investment, take our resources, to give people peace jobs as miners underground and other jobs that don't really change people's lives materially. And so it's important for economic policy to stop that process of allowing our people to be overexploited. We need to take the accountability to say, how are we going to craft policy that is going to ensure that our people benefit from every resource that this country has to offer?
After 14 years in the US, there was a calling waiting for me here to answer the call of our generation. Because I refuse, as many Africans as you, as many of our presidents here working to make this happen, that we are not a poor country, that we are the richest continent in the world, with the most natural resources in the world, the most edible land in the world, 365 days of sun. The youngest generation in the world are in Africa. And until now, we cannot guarantee food and access to opportunity and quality of life to our children. This is why I decided to leave Washington, D.C. to come and play my part. Because I know not only government have to do their part, but each one of us, all of us, the private sector, we too have to do our part. I know nothing about farming. My family know nothing about farming, but I knew the core of our economy. If we want for Africa to develop, we have to address the food issues that we have. We have to produce what we eat and eat what we produce. Not only will feed our people, but we'll create jobs and give dignity to our people.
Africa and African Americans and black people all over the world who are growing up and they are coming up, they are beginning to see that, they are beginning to know that we don't need even to depend on the West, especially those who have gone there and they've been able to experience life up there. Because when we used to think that it is only the Europe countries that are better, now it is the time that we are seeing there are even some people in the European countries who are complaining about poverty. Who are complaining about how they cannot be able to get jobs and all that. We've seen white Americans complaining. They are coming out, they're speaking to the public saying, this government needs to provide jobs to the youths. This government needs to take care of us. This government needs to govern better and all that. These are some things that we never expected we can ever see when we were growing up. These are things we never knew we can even know they're existing when we were growing up. But it is until we've grown up and we've read stories, we've read books, and we are seeing things that are happening in the social media and all out here, and we can be able to tell Africa is great. And Africa does not need anybody from outside to come and help it. Africa does not need any charity, does not need any aids to be given to them. That Africa can actually do things and work things out by themselves. We didn't know this before. And that is why right now you'd realize that many youths and many people in Africa, they are singing songs of revolution because they want independence of African countries. They want Africa to be liberated and begin depending on itself. They want the independence of Africa. We don't want to continue begging and all that. You see how these youths are speaking? They know that Africa is rich. They know that Africa has many things that people did not know Africa has. Youths of this age and youths of this, like the ones we are watching, a long time ago, youths could never come out with things like those ones, or speaking in that manner, or explaining those kind of things, or coming out with that kind of consent, because they did not know actually what was happening. And that is why it was really very easy for them to be colonized. It was very easy for them to be ruled and all that, because ruling in Africa by white supremacy is still going on, and we are looking forward to break that governance. We're looking forward to break that system where black people have been ruled all this time. Yeah. And the thing that really makes black people get ruled easily is the fact that we are depending on the white people, is the fact that we have been depending on them. You know, when you depend on someone, it's very easy for this person to rule you. It is very easy for this person to say to you whatever the things you want to say, and you will have nothing remain but to follow and listen to this person, because at the end of the day, you have nowhere to go, you have nothing to say, and you have nothing to do. You will have to listen to them, you will have to follow them, and you will have to do what they say, because you are the person who is in need. You are the person who wants to be helped. And I told you the other time, when somebody is in help, this person can very easily be manipulated. When somebody is in need of help, this person can very easily be manipulated, because when you're told to do anything, you will do it because you need help. Even if you're told to jump up 20 times, you will jump up 20 times singing, because you want that help. You are desperate of help. Okay? But now, when black people and African people, especially the youths, begin to understand that we can live better in Africa and get everything we want in Africa, then it means the dependency is going to come down. The level of dependency is going to come down. The level of begging from the West to help us is going to come down. And Captain Ibrahim Traore has tried to show this out to us. He has tried to reveal this to us. We are seeing it everywhere. He has tried to actually prove to us that we can actually live better by ourselves. We can actually do things by ourselves. He is not saying just by words, but he is proving to us. Right now in Burkina Faso, youths are not supposed, and they cannot go out for further education. They can still get this further education in their own countries, because Traore has made it possible for them. Traore is teaching them what they're supposed to know as black people, is teaching them to understand that when you are in Burkina Faso or when you are in Africa, you are able to live better than people all that, even when you go to America, because here in Africa is where the world riches is coming from. Yeah, it is only that in Africa here we have not been able to put everything we have into generating wealth and all that, because we've not been given an opportunity to do that. Every time we try to do that, they are blocking us from doing that. That is why our leaders are being taken out and all that. Those who are trying to come up with great minds, they are taken out, because they do not want us to start making the wealth we have, the minerals we have and the materials we have, into generating and building wealth. Okay? They don't want us to be able to do that. Okay? So he is trying to teach them and tell them it is only in Africa where you can live better. And we need to find good governance. We need to find people who are ready to lead people in the right way and tell people the truth if we want to live better in our continent and if we want to live better in our countries. So if you go out there, it means we are not going to have that kind of life in Africa. We're not going to reach where we are supposed to reach as black youths and as black people here in Africa. So what you need to do is to stay to your country and start working in your country. Start working things out in your country. Don't beg, because if you continue begging, you are giving them opportunity and you are giving them power to keep on ruling you and to keep on thinking you need their help. You need to still beg them. But if you work things out in your country and start building wealth, you will not have an opportunity of begging from them anymore. What will you do? What you will do is that you are going to remain in Africa and you're going to build wealth in Africa. And since that started sinking into the hearts of the African youths, now African youths are trying to do away with bad governance because they don't want to continue begging from the West to help them. They want to be able to work in Africa and get jobs in Africa and stop begging the West. They are beginning to wake up. Just today, I had the Kenyan president, he was in a rally somewhere and he was saying, I'm taking youths abroad to go and work. That is the work that I've been able to do. We don't want our youths to go and work abroad. We want our youths to work in Africa. And that is why African youths, since they knew that from Captain Ibrahim Traore, they are beginning to do their work from the country and to work things out by themselves from their country. Tell me what you think about that. I'll do my best to make sure I read the comments and give a response where possible. I am the African Streamline. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for coming. For the returning subscribers, I salute you. If it's your first time to be here, don't forget to subscribe. I tell you every day, Africa is home, and anything that concerns Africa concerns me and you as black people all over the world. God bless.